Welcome to another episode of our SaaS Stories podcast. I'm your host, Ash, and this is a show where I interview proven founders and industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build, launch, and grow your SaaS business. In this episode, I talk to Tyler, the founder and CEO of Centori. Having worked at renowned companies like HubSpot and other SaaS startup, Tyler recognized the need for comprehensive SEO tool that goes beyond traditional approaches. Fueled by his dissatisfaction with existing SEO tools and guides, he embarked on a mission to develop a solution that empowers small businesses to succeed in the competitive world of SEO. Centori offers a unique software platform that enables users to think strategically about SEO, identify growth opportunities, and optimize their online presence. But it does not stop there. Tyler goes the extra mile to provide additional support through a private Slack community and monthly group coaching calls. This ensures that users receive personalized guidance in building and managing effective SEO strategies. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ash. Really happy to be here.
Great. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you that you can share?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I don't know the exact quote off the top of my head, but I'm a big believer in two principles. One is paying it forward. I've been very blessed in my life, and I try to give back wherever I can and continue to, people have helped me, a lot of people a lot smarter than myself, so I try to do the same thing, helping others. But then also the fact that you really can't overdo it or overserve. I think that comes just from where it's began my career, customer success, really trying to always do everything I can to help someone, make someone successful. And that's something I do in my business. And hasn't really done me wrong when it comes to support, obviously, but even sales growth and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, my mother used to say the same thing, like the good you do outside, the good you do for other people, the universe gives back to you the same.
Totally, yeah. Can't do wrong by going the extra mile or try to just do the right thing.
Perfect. So tell us about Centori. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Yeah, for sure. You gave an excellent summary. I began my career in marketing software. So I worked at HubSpot for a while, and all the while I've always been interested in SEO, and I've been doing SEO as a hobby, building websites. I used to build WordPress websites back when I was in high school and college, and I was always fascinated by the internet and getting found online. There's a sort of way that SEO really worked in the early 2000s and the 2010s. That doesn't really work anymore now that the web's got more crowded. So while I was at HubSpot, I really saw how delightful it can be to work on a SaaS product that people love. I realized how hard it can be. But the thing I think that stood out the most to me is what I felt made HubSpot so successful as a company, what helped them go from a multi-million-dollar company to $1 billion company, is the support and services that they provided, that they made every customer feel important and feel valued, and that they did everything they could to make sure customers were successful using their software. And I didn't see that in SEO tools. So I've been trying different SEO tools, the expensive ones, the cheap ones, the ones in between. And the real problem I see with SEO is it is so technical as a discipline and is so competitive. A tool on its own isn't going to teach someone who's brand new to SEO how to be successful. And so blending the ability to get education, to get support, to get guidance, that's where I saw the big opportunity with Centori. And at the heart of it, that's what I'm really trying to do. It's not worry so much about overloading people with data as much as overloading them with knowledge.
So when you had the epiphany, did you look into the market where there were other products similar to that? I mean, obviously you already mentioned that there was not that much support going on, but what was going on at the time, and what did you see from your research that encouraged you to move ahead with it?
Totally, good question. It's probably around 2020 is when I really started trying to launch Centori as a software product. It was during the pandemic. I was working full time. I was working at HubSpot. And so I thought, I'm not commuting. I can't go anywhere. I have a lot of time to code and build out this product. And so I was able to build it in a short amount of time and then run several ad campaigns. The things that you do, you build a landing page, you run an ad campaign, you get people to sign up. And the challenge I found is that people would sign up and they would use the tool for about a week and drop off and wouldn't pay. And I would always ask them, hey, what happened? Why weren't you continuing to use the tool? And almost every single person said, I didn't know how to use this, or I didn't know what to use it for. It's nice. It's a lot easier to use. I like the design, but I don't know what to use this for. And as a founder, it's easy to fall in love with your idea, especially for someone like me with a product background. I like product solutions, worked as a product manager for a while as well at HubSpot. And it took a little bit longer than I care to admit. But I did come around to the idea that, you know what, if we're thinking about what is the core problem that my customer is facing, it's that everyone's telling me I don't know how to do SEO. And I thought, well, there's only so much a tool can do, but there's a lot that I can do. And I realized as I was trying out, Ahrefs, SEMrush, Mangoals, some of those big SEO tools, a bunch of the smaller ones, and they all looked exactly the same. I feel like a lot of SEO tools just copy SEMrush and Ahrefs. And I realized that the problem is the people I'm trying to target, business owners, marketers, non-SEO experts, aren't using those tools because they don't know how to use them. I shouldn't build the exact same tool. I realized I needed to do something different, and I realized I could differentiate with things like a community, with things like the coaching I do on top of the software, with an onboarding program that we launched. And those are things that none of those big players are doing. I think at best, SEMrush is involved in a couple of Slack communities, and that's pretty much the level of support that you get. I realized I could do a lot more leaning on my customer success background there.
Perfect. So you actually solving the pain point of the uneducated, unaware customers who doesn't know about the SEO tools, whereas compared to those customers who actually already using SEMrush or Ahrefs, they might already know about SEO, mostly the agencies, etc. So they don't need that kind of hands-on support to get on board with the tooling system, isn't it?
Precisely. And I think where this has become a big opportunity, where we're trying to really take advantage of it, is 10 years ago, SEO was debatable as a channel that you needed. It was okay if you didn't have SEO because 10, 15 years ago, a lot of businesses didn't even have websites, but now it's kind of table stakes. It's just necessary that you have a plan for appearing and ranking on Google because everyone's industry is so crowded. There's so many similar businesses, competition is increasing, and it's getting a lot harder to rank on Google. Just having a website and a few blog posts, even if you're using ChatGPT, that's not going to help you rank because everyone's doing the same thing. They're all creating the same websites, all creating the same content, making it very crowded. And so we're realizing that there are a lot of folks who realize SEO is something that they need to do. They need to care about and prioritize, but they have no idea where to start. And we're also seeing a lot of suspicion when it comes to agencies that really are just kind of plugging in a keyword into Ahrefs and saying, well, here's 1,000 keywords that came out. You should write a blog post for each one of these. And that worked, 10 years ago, but we're not seeing that work as much anymore. I'm not seeing that as a valid approach to SEO just because it's so competitive. So, the markets definitely are shifting, and we're trying to be as friendly and usable for those folks who aren't SEO nerds like myself, but realize, hey, I need my business to rank on Google, and I'm sick of seeing my competitors rank above me.
Indeed, and I can totally relate to that because I run myself a SaaS business, and it took me more than a year and a half to rank like 2 pages on first page of this, and a lot of dollars to get the backlinks and the content and everything. So I totally get the pain point here. So can you give us, because you mentioned that you provide a lot of support, so can you give us a sense of the size of the business? Where are you in terms of revenue, number of customers, size of the team, etc.?
Sure thing. So, I'm actually, I've been doing this bootstrapping in addition to a full-time job for a bit. I actually recently went full-time on Centori, which I'm really excited about, but we're still a small team. I do all the customer interfacing. I'm someone who's on my team helping me with the marketing side, creating content, writing emails, all that good stuff. So we're a two-person team, one person full-time, one person part-time. In terms of customer count, we're approaching a couple dozen. There's a mix of folks who are just paying for the software and folks who are paying for additional services and coaching and support. which, has really helped us accelerate revenue and get to a point where I can do it full time. So I realize I'm very fortunate and really, honestly lucky to get to that position. And, but there's a much further to grow and a much bigger impact I think we can make in this space. So that's what we're looking for through the rest of the year.
Definitely, definitely. And I think there is a word in our SaaS space, something called ramen.
Ramen profitable.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you got into
For-
ramen profitable. Yeah.
Fortunately, we're past ramen profitability. I'd say we're at we're not quite, filet mignon profitability. We're somewhere in the middle there.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, great stuff. So let's take a step back. Let's go into your background before you started Centori. Tell us more about you. Where did you grow up? Where did you study? And obviously you mentioned about your experience with HubSpot and all the product related challenges you faced. But what was the triggering point, or what was the inspiration since from your childhood till this point when you thought, okay, this is the thing which I have to do? Because for a founder's life, startup, and if you're going full time in it, it's something has to be something you are passionate about. Plus, you should keep going, because but at some point, if you don't have money or don't have much traction or customers, you'll think like, am I doing the right thing? I mean, I'm not saying that's correct way to go it or not, but I'm just saying that you need that passion, right? So you need that passion from somewhere, from your background, from your journey.
Yeah, totally. So I grew up outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I live in Massachusetts now. I went to college in Massachusetts, so I never went far despite many opportunities to leave. I went to. It's funny because I studied English and economics in college. I went to Holy Cross and in Worcester, and through that I developed a love for storytelling, for analyzing data points, understanding why the world works the way that it does. And ever since I was in high school, like I mentioned, I was always interested in building websites. I was interested in blogging before it was cool, and just the internet, how it worked. And I just developed honestly a love of writing and storytelling, and that kind of continued to grow and develop while I was in college and continued to develop after. I actually wanted to be a sports writer for a while. I'm a huge Red Sox fan. If you have any folks, if you have any folks in the East Coast in your audience, there you go. Shout out to the Red Sox. They're having a rough season. I ran a sports blog on the Red Sox, and I actually got it to thousands of visitors per month. Got to social media marketing and building an audience, and learned a lot about just kind of grassroots, starting from scratch marketing. And this was in the early 2010s. I did this when I was in college and after college. And so that got me exposure to not just storytelling, but storytelling to a large audience and building a following, which honestly always motivated me. I just loved delighting people. I loved when people would read the content, when they would share it, when they would respond to it. I learned the hard way there are going to be people who don't like what you're producing, and they're going to leave critical comments, and I had to navigate that as well. But these were things I learned early on about putting myself out there and not being afraid to, and I just loved creating. I think it's kind of going back to storytelling and writing. It's the act of creation, which I think everybody kind of has an innate desire to do. We want to be creative people. Even folks who say they're not creative want to create something, whether it's, piece of art or just a simple written thing that you wrote. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. That all led me to, I began my career in financial services. So I worked at a fintech company and hated it because I realized that wasn't giving me that outlet. But then I went to HubSpot, and that's again where I mentioned I really fell in love with marketing software and just seeing that software is a different type of product you can create. And there's a whole other process behind it, but it's really kind of the underlying thing. You're putting something out there, whether you're creating something, whether you're actually creating a software product, whether you're creating an experience for a customer that you're interacting with. Learn a lot about customer success and support and what it takes to make someone feel valued as a customer. As a product manager, learned a lot about what it takes to build and ship a product and understand how people use it. And this was really, I'd say, a good crash course in what led me to building Centori. I think at the end of the day, why, honestly, it is, being full time on this, it is much easier having a job. It's much easier getting a paycheck and, having health insurance and not having to worry about self-employment taxes, and just not worrying about your paycheck going up or down. But man, I wouldn't trade it because it is just exciting being able to spend time creating something and having that be your sole pursuit. I think that was the thing I've always wanted. I've always admired. My dad ran his own business and continues to run it. He is a financial advisor. And I always saw that there's a lot of kind of passion on the line there. You don't have a job necessarily. You don't have like a 9 to 5. It's like this is your thing that you're building and you are held to that standard. And, it doesn't have to be a billion or $1 billion business. As long as this is as successful as you want it to be, you can be proud of that. And that's okay. That's the thing that I learned as well from him. It's easy to get caught up and look at these unicorns and think, well, I need to build $1 billion company. Well, hey, if you build a $500,000 company, you're doing better than so many folks, and you are honestly one of the luckiest and richest people in the world. We're all fortunate to be in the position we are in, even if you're pursuing something part-time. So I'd say that's kind of the underlying motivation is creation, is the excitement of growing something, and kind of the thrill of having that be your standard, as opposed to going through, and I've done it for years, but going through the performance reviews and trying to angle for a promotion and maybe get like a 1% raise, out of it. That is much easier to do, and it's certainly much more stable. But it wasn't something I realized I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I may come back to that, but you never know.
No, perfect, great. And I want to tap into that when you mentioned that you used to develop these WordPress websites for your customers when you were young. What interested you into getting into software development or essentially into coding? The reason I'm asking you this is because a lot of people I interview, they don't really know how to develop the products because, I was just reading an article the other day and I found out that out of 8 billion people on the earth, only 1% are software developers. So I'm like, okay, it's a very, good place to be. But then, not necessarily you have to do a tech degree in order to do code or do softwares. So how does it came to you?
Yeah, great question. So I think I make my WordPress development sound much more ambitious than it was. I wasn't doing anything for customers. I was just doing it for myself. And it's actually started out because WordPress, one of the beauties of it is it's open source. It's very easy to personalize and change things. And realizing, oh wow, I can make a change to this, and that I always felt was really cool. I've always been into cooking and baking, and it's very kind of. I feel it's very similar. There's established things and tools and ways and processes you can use to create something, and it's really similar with the web. And so I would kind of customize the themes, add custom sections, build a custom website, and feel like this looks exactly like how I want it. I got into web hosting and understanding how that worked, and I always found that really kind of fun and interesting. Building a software product, though, that's a whole other ball game. I was fortunate at HubSpot; we got an education stipend, so I was able to, go through a Team Treehouse. I found really helpful in learning to code, kind of getting access to all these other materials, and just kind of went through and understanding, right, how do I build these things? How do APIs work? How does JavaScript work? How does Python work? How does Django work? How do databases work? And so all these kind of things I've just accrued knowledge over the years and getting to a point where I can start building really simple tools. I built a self-help tool for the HubSpot Academy team and people, you can get a HubSpot certified, and people want to get a sense of, hey, what's the status of my certification? And so I built a tool with them that hooked into one of the APIs for where they kind of use a project management system to tell you where you were in line. And that was really fun. And then realizing, okay, well, there's a bunch of APIs that I can use for SEO purposes. I know how to build a simple interface. I learned Django in terms of connecting a front end to a back end and a database. Let's build a product here. And it's something I use just for myself, and then started opening up to other users. And now we've been able to build it up and continue to be successful. I didn't go to school for computer science, and I wouldn't consider myself, I wouldn't apply to a developer job, even though I know my way around code and a piece of documentation. I'd say as soon as I can, I'd like to not be coding. I think it's just best for me. I think it's best for Centori. I think I'll always be coding something. I personally really enjoy it. While it can be tricky, at the end of the day, it's like solving puzzles and putting things together. And thinking about things as logically as you can in terms of how to build something. I find that very enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. And then the moment you realize that the thing you built with these fingers are used by hundreds of thousands of people, oh my God, the satisfaction.
Totally. Totally. Or even, I was onboarding a customer the other day and just, you know, him sharing his screen and me watching him click and do the thing, use the tool the way I intended. I thought, wow,
Yeah.
he figured it out. That's really cool. That's honestly one of the more rewarding things because there's so many times people figure out fun ways to use tools that you never anticipated. And usually those end up being bugs.
Indeed. Perfect. So how long did it take to build the first version of Centori?
Yeah, I'd say, man, I built like version 0 years ago, and I'd say it was a lot of mucking around through understanding how these different systems worked in databases and migrations. And that probably took, I'd say, about a year. I ended up rebuilding a lot of the platform from scratch and migrating the database over. And that took around like 4 months. I did that a couple of years ago, and that's the version everyone's on. So I've progressively gotten much, much better. And honestly, one of the biggest things is just really focusing on what should this platform do? How can we be as simple as possible in that? And build just the best tool set we can for the things that we do. The first version, I was new as a product manager, very new as a developer, and just thinking, oh, it's easy to do feature factory thing. Oh, we need this tool, we need this tool, we need this tool. No, we got to think, what is the core problem we're trying to solve? Let's build really simply and sustainably tools to do that. So that took much faster to end up building.
Perfect. Okay, great stuff. So what I would like to know more about Centori is a lot of our listeners are from my community, from Y Combinator, YC. We have lots of VCs here in Europe. Whenever I speak with them, they're starting either a SaaS product or a product or a mobile app or things like that. They want to get ranked on the first page, which is essentially everyone's goal right now as being a founder, founders. So let's say, for example, you have a startup. It's a SaaS startup. They come to land on your agency website or Century tool website, and then they say, okay, I want to use this. So can you explain me step by step, considering, I mean, I know there's lots of elements and factors, but consider that they have a basic website, 5-page website, and the tool there after login. So what is the step-by-step process they can leverage the tool so that it benefits them?
Gotcha. Great question. So really, it all really starts in the strategy. SEO is pretty routine. It's content creation and it's really creating content, making sure that Google can see that content and has indexed that content, and that you're learning from where it sits and the keywords it ranks for, how you can continue to improve that content. But that is more or less routine. You can kind of boil it down to, a few hours a week if you're publishing one piece of content and keeping tabs on it. Really, where people need to be successful, or if they want to be successful, they need a strategy. The strategy, most folks will say in SEO strategies, okay, build a keyword list, write a blog post for each one, beg people for backlinks, and kind of rinse and repeat. But that's really a to-do list. And it's a to-do list that in 2005 worked, but in 2023, not so much, because everyone is following the same advice from, Neil Patel and Brian Dean. They're reading the same articles. They're doing the exact same thing. If you want to be successful at SEO, I take everyone through a strategic program where we build a strategy with them, doing the keyword research, the market research, building out the content plan. But really, it can be boiled down to, first off, who's your ideal user? Who are you trying to reach? The problem with a lot of keyword research tools, and we even built one, but the problem with the keyword research tools, you plug in a seed keyword and it'll spit out like 2,000 suggestions. But that is not going to tell you the whole story. What you need to understand is, I'm trying to reach this type of person who has these challenges. They're trying to do their job and they're having these impediments to it. And they're trying to go about it this way. And what we want to do is we want to tap into that and then think, okay, how are they going to Google, or what are they going to Google with as they're trying to navigate that journey, as they're trying to overcome those challenges? And how do those questions change as they move through the buyer's journey? You know, about your typical SaaS website, there's really like 2 types of queries or 3 types of queries that a SaaS company needs to consider. There's, I'm looking for a piece of software that can do X, Y, and Z. Those are your features-based bottom of the funnel queries. Your features landing pages are what goes there. If you have a product and let's say it can do 10 things, you really should have a page for each feature because chances are someone's looking for a SaaS product that can do one of those things. I see a lot of SaaS companies just have one page. It's just product and it's just like one landing page with a little snippet. That's just not enough because you got to drill down into those niche queries. Another case is use cases. I'm looking for a product for a type of use case or person. That can come into play. Kind of depends on your business if that varies by persona for you. And then I'm looking to do my job better. And I think the one mistake a lot of companies make is they think, oh, let me just cram all that stuff into the blog and just have a bunch of blog posts. But the real problem is no one's going to go to page 6 of your blog to find that content. So what you want to do is think, what are the core tasks that my customer is trying to accomplish? And how can I bring some of that content to the front, to the front view and the front when they land on the homepage and make it easily navigable. So that's doing things like pillar pages or a resource library or like a quick start guides, those types of things where you take existing blog content that you have, but bundling in a way that it's easy to get to when someone lands on your homepage. So I'm kind of going on a lot here, but I guess to break some tactical examples of this, two come to mind. One is a client I'm working with now. They do truck repair. And so they sent me something that an SEO agency gave them, which is like keywords like truck repair and truck repair near me. It's like, okay, great. That's really genius stuff. That's helpful. What we realized is that their target customer are truck drivers. Their truck repair shops located all over the West Coast of the United States. And look, I have a car and I don't really down from the start, when it comes to cars. And those aren't even car terms. So it shows you how much I know. And my wife will also tell you the same. Anytime a light goes on, we hear a rumbling, we hear a noise. We're always wondering what happened. And I'm going to Google, like I literally Google, how do I raise the hood for a Honda Civic? Truck drivers are experiencing the same thing. So rather than just okay, let's just focus on truck repair shops, and those are important, yes. But what about, truck vibrates when I brake, or truck is banking to the left, or, transmission is making a grinding noise, or this spring is loose, those types of things. So essentially thinking about the website as a resource that truck drivers can use and what we're building out with them, it's almost like a digital truck manual, something that's easy to navigate, it's searchable. We're not going to create a million blog posts about 5 things that truck drivers need to bring, or, those types of things. That's not useful content. Hey, if you're in a jam and your truck is, on the side of the road and you're Googling, what is this problem and where do I get help? We're there. We're going to rank for that. Another example is a SaaS company. It is it's actually, we just kind of wrapped up building a strategy for them. It is an app. It's a communication app for ALS patients. Their audience is caregivers, professional home care agencies. And so obviously there's a lot of things that their product does as we built out features pages for each of those things, but then thinking, well, what are the core problems caregivers have? Well, there's one is caring for an ALS patient, but that's going to be really crowded. Huge opportunity with burnout. But caregivers really struggle with burnout. They struggle getting overwhelmed, burnout, even resentment of their patients. It's really sad, but it happens. So we're building a product for caregivers. So how do they become an authority, not just on what their product does, but an authority on, hey, you're a caregiver, you're facing these challenges. We're going to give you a burnout guide, a burnout quiz, a burnout assessment. The core kind of underlying theme here is we're focusing on websites that are hyper usable and also focus on solving problems, almost like your product would. So I think those are the 2 things really that can set you up for success beyond an SEO tool. Or really in using an SEO tool, I should say, is having a strategic plan that puts your customer at the center and is focused on content that is usable and useful and solves problems for them and is front and center on the website. And then you can go into using an SEO tool, looking at the analytics for how that content performs, looking and tracking keyword rankings, looking at conversions and how organic is actually driving conversions for your business. And that allows you to then say, okay, this part of the website's bringing in results, let's double down there. I'm rambling, but if I could just go one step further, just as another example, I'm really interested, and I'm sure a lot of SaaS founders are, is when people visit the pricing page. What I really want to know is what content do people land on from Google that leads them to the pricing page? because that tells me, okay, that's content that is more likely to drive conversions because more people navigating through to the pricing page are probably more people going to sign up and book a demo or subscribe to a plan. And so what we do is we track that. We can actually see from Google through our integration with Google Analytics and our custom events we set up through Google Tag Manager. We've got a few blog posts and guides on keyword research that immediately next click is going to the pricing page. Well, if we want to drive conversions, and this is the big thing we're leaning into in the second half of the year, let's just create a lot more content in that area because that's much more likely to lead to new plans and new subscribers and sales. So really thinking intelligently about your content, not just viewing it. Well, I got to blog once a week, but thinking where do we want to go? What challenges are customer facing? How does content solve those problems for them? How do we use content intelligently to drive business for us? And that's kind of like my, I guess, 10-minute now rambling spiel on how do you really set yourself up for success when it comes to SEO.
Yeah, definitely. And what I got, so the stage stoppers here, what I have understood is your ICP, your ideal customer profile. You need to dig that down. You need to understand who they are. And B is their intent, what they want to do to get the solutions, the pain point. And then if you ace these two things, you ace Google ranking.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. There are things that come into play like domain authority, which is a made-up metric, to be honest, but just how authoritative is your website? And if you have an established website with a lot of backlinks, it's easier to rank than a website just starting out. But those aren't the starting points. The starting point is rock solid understanding your customer, thinking about your website really intentionally, making sure it's usable, you're giving good information, it's optimized to convert. And then you start ramping things up by like, okay, we're getting this much traffic. And, the gap between us and the top of page one is like 20 backlinks. That's where you start exploring strategies to get those. I'm not a big fan of just spamming people for backlinks because it doesn't work and people see right through it. I like to build links by building relationships, creating content people actually want to link to. So like a link magnet is what typically is called. As a specific example, something we also just wrapped up with a client is they have a speed reading app. So it actually, it's like an e-reader that speed reads for you. It's really cool. And they've been in business for a while. They have a ton of data on how often people use the app, how fast people read. And so we're thinking, hey, you're the only one who can provide a data-backed study on the average reading speed of the average person and kind of breaking down different levels of reading speeds and how those change. And like people are probably going to be Googling, hey, what's the average speed someone reads? And if you have a data-backed study, chances are you're going to rank number one and they're going to link to that. And that's one of the most effective ways is thinking about what are some of these really unique, interesting content pieces that someone naturally wants to link to, because no one's going to want to link to your blog post on what is speed reading, but they will want to link to a data-backed study with lots of cool visualizations. So that's what we worked on with them. And hopefully we'll be very successful.
Perfect. Awesome. Great. And by the way, you mentioned about Brian Dean. I think he gave up with his YouTube channel, I guess.
Well, he sold it, actually. SEMrush realized, so wow, we need to think about education, and we don't have anyone that can provide it, so let's buy someone else, which is just kind of tells you where the market is going. It shows where they realize their gap is because they got a lot of people who are churning, because I can't tell you how many folks tell me, a lot of our customers say, well, I use SEMrush, I didn't know how to use it, so this is great. And I think SEMrush is getting a little afraid of losing ground when it comes to the SEO space.
Great stuff. Okay, so Tyler, tell me more about when you started with this platform. What was the pricing model that time? And going through all these time frame, what is the current pricing model and why is the difference, if there is a difference?
Yeah, really good question, because it has changed a lot. And I think that's a bit of advice I give to early stage founders is be very loose with your pricing and change it, because you're going to learn a lot by not just what will people pay for. I think that's the first hurdle, but what will they continue to pay for and what also generates a good return for you, and what, the level of service you're providing. So we started off with a really standard pricing model. We started off with free at like some sort of starter, pro, and enterprise tier, and I gated by features. That was when we were just super product centric. We didn't do any sort of coaching or extra support. And to be honest, I found that to be really not very valuable for the customer, but also not really valuable for me as a business owner. A lot of people would sign up for free. The challenge is SEO is a long game, and so they wouldn't convert. And so we kind of did away with that as an idea. And also gating features is just a lot to manage, and it's just a lot to think through. That I think honestly, most, especially if it's a first time SaaS founder, it doesn't make sense to think, well, this feature is really good for this tier. It just gets really difficult and complex. You could add that complexity in, but I wouldn't start there. What I wish I did was just starting with, hey, this is one pricing option for software. It's flat rate, and you get what you get, and we can always add and gate features as time goes on after we get paying customers. That's the real challenge. It's interesting because around 2020, launched the software, had a lot of free users, no one paid, no one got value out of it. I actually shut down the ability just to pay for the software. We continued to offer the software, but we offered with coaching tiers. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a similar thing. We're going to offer coaching, but you get an hour, you get 2 hours, you get 3 hours, and you can pay. I think it was like 350, 500, 750, basically 250 an hour is what it came down to. And, or around that, there's some kind of difference there in the price. But the thing I found is that people would pay for 3 hours and say, oh, I used 2, or I used 2.5, or I used 3, but I don't really need this anymore. I don't really want to pay for this anymore. And I found that wasn't sticky enough. Where we're at now is we found a lot of people who are interested in the software. We offer $39 a month. It's unlimited use, track as many keywords as you want. We've got a bunch of different keyword research tools. We crawl your website, all that good stuff, integrates with Google Search Console, Google Analytics. $39 a month. I don't want to get too fancy with it in terms of, okay, we'll have like the pro tier and the enterprise tier. We may get there as the business grows, but right now, trying to keep it as simple as possible. The coaching, we've just kind of condensed down to essentially you get up to 90 minutes with an SEO expert every month. It's $3.99 a month. So there's a big price jump there because you're getting really one-on-one live dedicated support. I'm getting on calls, doing strategy calls with folks, doing keyword research, building PPC campaigns, pretty much SEO and SEM related, and doing just a quick monthly report saying, hey, here's your analytics. Here's what you've done. Here's the impact it made. Here's what you should prioritize. And you try to keep it as simple and direct and actionable as possible. Recently, we launched an SEO services kind of component. So providing services on top of the software, namely in the form of content and PPC campaigns. And that starts at $2,500 a month. And we're pretty much running your entire content and SEO operations. And again, this is kind of a page I took out of HubSpot's book, and I think what made HubSpot successful. A lot of people would look at that and say, well, really, you're a coaching and services company. Most of the money comes from coaching and services, to be honest. HubSpot, no one would accuse of not being a scalable company. They are a software company, billion-dollar company, but HubSpot offers really the difference between Starter, which is $50 a month, and Pro, which I think is like $800 a month, is you get a CSM. You get a couple features that you don't get in Starter, but you get a CSM. You're getting someone who's there to answer emails, hop on the phone, do strategy with you, build you a custom dashboard report. I do a similar comparison when it comes to the coaching. HubSpot also offers pro services. They offer website design services. They offer marketing consultative services, all this type of services. And that's where HubSpot makes a ton of money as well. I do our SEO services is comparable to that. So rather than it being a services company, I view us as a software platform enabled and empowering our customers with additional expertise and services as well for folks who really want to offload that and they have the budget for it.
Good stuff. I mean, to be honest, I never used CRMs before in my life too. When I decided to go with the podcast approach, first I studied for like a few months and understood what should be the approach. And then suddenly I realized, oh, wow, if I can do the lead follow-ups via CRM, why not? I can do the same for my podcast leads. And that's why you might have recognized that I use the HubSpot CRM, like loving it because this is the first time I've been introduced with something like this, where everything is in one place and I don't have to go outside to look for it. The only interaction I have with my interviewees is outside HubSpot when I am asking them to be on it. That's it, as you did, and then everything is on HubSpot. So it's really good in terms of improving your productivity, and really good to keep all the data in one place. So I can totally relate to it.
Totally. Awesome. Yeah. It's kind of like what I'm trying to do, but niching down into SEO. And that's kind of one of I'm a HubSpot customer, but a big gripe is HubSpot doesn't have really much at all in the way of SEO tooling. And we can kind of deliver a really good tool set and also really great support and help people be successful. Because I think that's one of the top gripes a lot of people have with SEO is a lot of SEO folks I find are focused on deliverables and not much the result. Well, we're selling you this content. We created the content, or we created the PPC campaign, and it drove ads to or drove traffic to your website. We're wiping our hands after that. No one really cares about that. I get it. I'm an SEO guy, and I understand no one really cares about SEO. What they care about is my business growing? And that's, I think, what's helped Centori be successful as a brand. And really what I'm trying to do to each one of our customers is communicate to them, make it really super clear. Like, I'm not satisfied just with the deliverable in terms of, hey, publish the content, we're done. It's got to drive traffic. That traffic has to convert. If you're not getting leads, if your business isn't growing, I'm not happy. And that's kind of the attitude that we try to take, whether it is the software, the coaching, and the services. It's making that abundantly clear to folks and helping people think in that way. Because I think it's easy for a lot of folks to think about SEO for themselves, for their own businesses, as we just have to publish content. No, your goal is to grow the business. Publishing content is a way you get there. What content you publish and how you position on the website is a strategic decision. And that's something that we try to help people make, whether through the tool or through the coaching and services that we offer.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so as we're reaching to the end, I would like to touch very lightly on the topic Chat GPT.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, a lot of people actually done to me when we host our live events, and they ask me about, like, because I write a lot. I do a lot of medium, so I write around, not much, 800 to 1,000 words in a week, which is too much for me, to be honest. Sitting on a computer thinking with the idea, and I list down all the ideas in medium itself and do that. But a lot of people tell me that they're using ChatGPT. I'm personally very scared using it, because I think, oh, if I put something from ChatGPT on my articles, it will sound too professional in terms of language, and English is not my first language, so I do make mistakes. And B, Google already mentioned it a couple of times, although they rephrased it later that, if you use ChatGPT in a proper way, we don't penalize you, but they might penalize me. That I don't want to happen. So what's your suggestion to our listeners about using or not using ChatGPT for content generation?
Good question. I feel like AI, especially this year, has just been such a polarizing topic, and I think there's a lot of polarization across the globe nowadays too. I, at the risk of sounding kind of wishy-washy, I take a middle ground up. I think ChatGPT is a great tool. I've experimented it a bit myself in terms of content creation. Google, for a while, has said AI-generated content is going to get you, it's going to have some penalization on your site. We're going to de-rank it. At the start of the year, Google said, hey, we don't care how the content was created as long as it's useful. And that is the key. ChatGPT isn't replacing content creation as much as it's replacing me outsourcing to someone on Fiverr who's going to create really low effort content. Well, if you create really low effort content with ChatGPT, guess what? No one's going to want to read it. It's not going to convert. You can publish, and I've seen folks publish like 100 or 1,000 blog posts and say, hey, why isn't my SEO working? It's like, well, your blog posts are extremely boring. There's no call to action. They're not considering the user. They're super two-dimensional. No one's going to want to read it. That's the whole point of content. It's not about getting traffic. It's about getting someone to do something. No one wants to subscribe to your newsletter. No one wants your tips in their inbox. What they want are things that can solve their problems. They want, maybe they want white papers, ebooks, tools that they can download or book a demo, but you got to put the user at the center. And obviously ChatGPT can't do that because it's just kind of regurgitating what it thinks you want it to, what it thinks you want based on the input you gave it. So I think ChatGPT is remarkable in its ability to generate coherent content. It does need a lot of editing because often it's wrong. Just based on the experience of using it, I'd say about half the time there's some factual inaccuracies there. But I don't say that we should completely knock it. I think it could be really useful in speeding up the content process. I find that personally it can be very helpful for me. And if there's like a couple of paragraphs or a section of a blog post I really need to, it's like really just a basic type of background context stuff. Like what's a buyer persona? And I'm trying to like write a paragraph on that. It's great to write that filler content, and I get to focus more on content design and less on just writing the content. So it's helped me speed up my content creation process, which I find helpful. But we still need like a brain behind it. You still need to think about the user and the situation they're reading it in and the call to action and all that stuff. It doesn't replace that. The thing I appreciate about that though is, what used to take maybe 6 months can take, 6 weeks. It reduces the amount of time that goes into content creation, which allows you to learn quicker about your website and what Google responds to, and what your users respond to and collect data. So that could be very useful. It's just making sure you're using it the right way. I think that's really the key with any tool and any kind of marketing tool. I think it's funny that almost every SaaS company has launched a quote unquote AI feature, but really it's just a ChatGPT integration, which I kind of find funny. At Centori, we purposefully haven't, because I don't think the world needs another content generation tool. But what I'm really interested in is an analytics analysis tool, and that's where we're focusing on, is getting insights from your data. But that'll be coming a bit later this year, probably.
Perfect. Oh, that would be good to see. Great stuff. Okay, so so we should wrap up now.
Cool.
We're gonna go into the lightning round. I've got 6 quick fire questions for you. So just try to answer them quickly. Yes, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's get started then. Okay. Number 1, what's one of the best pieces of business advice you have received?
Oh man, I'd say, honestly, put the customer at the center. HubSpot always did a good job of that, and solve for the customer and use good judgment. I think if you do those, you can't do wrong.
Perfect. Awesome. What book would you recommend to your audience and why?
Building the Story brand by Donald Miller. I think of all the marketing books I've read, that is without a doubt the best. It is super tactical and practical. I think the other one is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Probably one of the best sales books I've read.
Perfect. Awesome. And what's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
I think being able to be adaptable. I think the reason most startups fail is because I think personally people refuse to adapt. If I didn't adapt our business model, frankly, at this point, like 3 or 4 times, I would have failed years ago. Where I've been able to be successful is paying attention to the customer, focusing on the problem, and adapting and testing and being willing to test, and frankly, being willing to be proven wrong. I think that's one of the best things you can do.
Cool. And what's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
I am big on journaling and making a to-do list. Sounds really simple, but I literally just make a to-do list of like the 3 or 4 things I need to do today. And I just kind of keep everything else below the fold and out of sight. I can get to that later, but if there's 2 or 3 things I do, what's it got to be? And that's helped me stay on task for the most part.
Perfect. Not like Sheldon Cooper, is it?
No, no, I got into, not to, sound tropey, but I got into bullet journaling, but mine is really just as simple as, okay, it's Monday, it's Wednesday, June 28th. Here's 4 things I want to do. Here's a list of my meetings, and it's as simple as that.
Perfect. Awesome. What's a new or crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had the time?
One thing kind of on the noted to-do list I've toyed around with, and this is going to be one of the engineering kind of playgrounds that I build out, is I find to-do lists are very helpful. I find like online to-do lists, the trouble is it's easy to add things. So a to-do list that A, forces me to only add a certain amount of things, but B, I can set a timer on it, and I can actually just, because I'm going to just focus on this for the next 30 minutes or an hour. So to-do list with a timer where you can say, okay, this task, I want to spend an hour on it, start the clock, and it just puts you into focus mode. So that's probably something I'll play around with, and maybe I'll be launching that eventually. We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah. And last, what's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know, what's one of your most important passion outside of your work?
Um, I think that's a good one. I think my most important passion, I don't know if it's something people don't know. It's something that they already know when they get to know me. I mean, I'm a big person. Like I mentioned, I'm big on paying it forward. Faith is important to me. I'm not the most showy or like showboating type of person about it. But it's something that honestly kind of guides a lot of what I do is my personal beliefs and how I try to be with people. Um, I don't talk a lot about it publicly, so I'd say most people don't know it, but it's something that when they do really get to know me, they kind of see, oh, that's why Tyler acts that way or he is that way. Um,
Mm.
I'd say probably that.
Okay, great. Perfect. So, Tyler, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last years of building this business and some of the ups and downs along the way. If people want to check out Centori, what's the website for it? It's
Yeah, it's www.centori.io. So hop on there. Our Twitter is at Centori SEO, so you can find us there as well. We got a LinkedIn, but I try to be more active on social media, as you can probably guess. I'm an SEO guy. I focus a lot on SEO the channel. So yeah, you can find us on Google as well for some SEO questions that you have.
yeah, yeah. And if folks wanna get in touch with you, what's the best way to do to for that?
Uh, Probably if you want to hit me up on Twitter or LinkedIn, it's at Tyler Cionti. It's SCIONTI. So just shoot me a tweet, or find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way.
Perfect, perfect. Well, you know, this has been an amazing interview with you. I have learned so much. I'm myself a founder, so I will be implementing few interesting tips you have provided in this interview. So thank you very much for giving me your time, Tyler. And I hope once you become a billionaire, I'll get some more time with you to have the same.
Well, thank you so much, Ash. Really glad to be here. Really big fan of the podcast that you're running. So it's been a thrill, and wishing you the best of success with the future guests.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of our SaaS Stories podcast. I hope you found our conversation with Tyler insightful and inspiring. If you're a founder or industry expert interested in sharing your story on our SaaS podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out. Simply email me at ash@artcircles.com and let's connect for a potential interview opportunity. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on future interviews with proven founders and industry experts. We have a lineup of incredible guests and valuable insights coming your way. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep building.